She was confined to a storage room, a desperate attempt to prevent her from auditioning for a significant Hollywood film, until a wealthy stranger entered, captivated by her instantly, and whisked her away. When she finally stood before the camera, she secured the role that others had attempted to take from her, and it sent them into a frenzy. Nina Carter found herself amidst the dazzling turmoil of the Eaton Club's penthouse bar, where the atmosphere was saturated with fragrance and aspiration. Her head pounded from the relentless hours of feigned cheerfulness and serving drinks to investors who hardly acknowledged her presence. At the Eaton Club, as Nina poured champagne for a leering investor, Lacey glided into the room, her diamond earrings sparkling in the light. "Oh, Nina," her voice rang out, drawing the attention of everyone around. "Don't you ever feel weary of being in a subordinate role? Or is that simply part of your nature?" The atmosphere buzzed with quiet laughter, as investors exchanged hushed remarks about the fraudulent heiress. Nina's grip on the bottle grew firm, her cheeks flushed, yet she maintained a composed smile, pouring with precision. Lacey inched forward, her voice dripping with malice. "Know your boundaries, or you'll find yourself facing consequences beyond just employment." Nina remained silent, her gaze fixed on the ground, each laugh piercing her heart like a sharp knife. At 21, she possessed a captivating beauty, her long dark hair cascading around her, and her eyes sparkled with a subtle intensity. Yet, on this particular night, she felt as though she had vanished into thin air. The Carter Group, the empire of her biological family, had summoned her to charm their guests, and she had fulfilled her role, as she always did, unassuming and poised, never seeking the spotlight. Yet she craved a breath, a fleeting moment of respite. In that instant, she recalled the times she would emerge from her trailer in Missouri, seeking the sharp chill against her skin, a vivid reminder of her existence. Absent are the cameras and the high fashion, leaving only silence and the faint buzz of the freeway in the background. In those days, she would peruse borrowed scripts beneath the wavering glow of the porch light, silently reciting lines with aspiration in her heart and dirt on her boots. Her dreams went unrecognized by all. Neither her foster parents, nor her teachers, nor even the social worker who once said to her, "Acting's a pipe dream, sweetheart." Yet she held on to her faith, for at times, that faith was her only anchor. That memory now anchored her more than the dazzling skyline ever could. As she glided into the hushed corridor, she almost bumped into Linda Storm, her supervisor at Starlight Entertainment. Linda's keen gaze focused intently, her lips forming a smile that failed to illuminate her eyes. "Nina, are you off to a destination?" Nina composed herself, her voice steady even as the throbbing in her temples persisted. "Just stepping outside for a breath, Linda." "Endless night." Linda folded her arms, the sound of her designer heels echoing against the marble floor. "Let's get straight to the point. I understand you registered to audition for the lead role in Empire tomorrow, but you won't be attending." Nina raised an eyebrow, her demeanor remaining composed. She had encountered this scenario previously, Linda's relentless efforts to exclude her from significant opportunities. "I had no idea my audition overlapped with anything else. What's stopping me from going?" Linda's smile grew strained. "Don't be evasive. The Carter Group has already secured Lacey for that role. Do you really believe you can simply stroll in and take it? They've invested $15 million into this project. Nina, it belongs to her." Nina's lips formed a subtle arc, hinting at something just shy of a smile. "If it belongs to her already, what's the concern about my arrival?" Linda's cheeks burned, her voice turning into a sharp whisper. "You are a creative talent under my guidance. Follow my instructions, and I'm telling you that you won't be going." "Amusing," Nina remarked, her voice playful yet sharp. "I never understood that my path was meant to follow in Lacey's footsteps." Linda's eyes sparkled with fury. "You unappreciative little—" "Do not challenge me, Nina. You will come to regret it." Just as Nina was about to reply, 2 security guards emerged on the scene. With a mere flick of Linda's wrist, they seized her arms, their grips unyielding and painful, and propelled her toward the stairwell. As the guards clutched Nina's arms, Linda advanced, her eyes sparkling with wicked intent. Did you honestly believe you could slip into that audition unnoticed? You're just an ordinary person, Nina, a Missouri individual with an assumed identity. She let out a laugh, crisp and biting, as the guards wrenched Nina's purse, scattering her pages across the ground. What a disgrace, Linda sneered, crushing a page beneath her foot. You don't have the qualities of an actress. You're merely a recipient of the Carters' sympathy. Nina's jaw tightened, yet she remained silent, her quiet defiance echoing more powerfully than any words as they pushed her toward the stairwell. She remained silent, offering no resistance, her eyes locking onto Linda's with an intensity that pierced through the chaos as they pulled her toward the rooftop. Yet within her, a tempest of rage boiled fiercely. She felt an overwhelming urge to unleash her fury, to tear off her heels and hurl them at every insufferable face in that club, to seize Linda and drag her across the polished marble, forcing her to confront the arrogance of her little power play. Yet she refused to grant them that pleasure. She remained resolute. Not at this moment. Anger had never been her ally. What had sustained her was endurance, quietude, and a strategic approach. This night would linger in her memory. She would recall each sneer, every insult, and every shove that came her way. And one day, as they all gazed up at a billboard featuring her face, she hoped they would hold on to that moment as well. With a swift motion, her phone was yanked from her pocket, and as if propelled by an unseen force, she found herself stumbling into a tight storage room. The door banged closed, the lock snapping into place with a sense of inevitability. Shadows enveloped her. The atmosphere felt stagnant, the area hardly spacious enough to pivot. Nina eased herself down the wall, her elegant black dress snagging on the uneven floor beneath her. She remained silent and composed. She remained still, her expression serene, while her thoughts surged with intensity. She measured time in seconds, then minutes, each one marked by the rhythm of her breath. As she remained seated, her anger solidified further. Not a tempest, but a chill, precise and restrained. She had discovered long ago that yelling achieved nothing. Silence was essential for survival. Her hands, poised on her knees, clenched into fists as her thoughts wrestled with Linda's words. They perceived her as nothing more than a charity case. Yet she was not pleading. She had never experienced that. All her efforts, every word she committed to memory, each audition that slipped through her fingers, were leading to this moment. If they sought conflict, they would certainly find it. Yet it would arrive without flames. It would arrive quietly, with her name lighting up every marquee they attempted to conceal from her. In the dimly lit storage room, Nina's thoughts wandered back to her inaugural night at the Carter estate 5 years prior. In the grand marble foyer, she stood at 16, filled with hope, gripping a well-worn suitcase. Evelyn Carter, her mother, had scarcely cast a glance in her direction. "You're not our daughter," she had said with a chilling detachment, while her father Richard murmured something about tainted lineage. Lacey, observing from the staircase, wore a smile that resembled a predator's grin as the family turned their backs. That night, isolated in a guest room, Nina caught snippets of their conversation, plotting to control her, to exclude her from their realm. The recollection pierced deeper than the chill gnawing at her flesh in this moment. This was not unfamiliar. Lacey Dalton, the girl who had taken everything from her, had been orchestrating a plan to destroy her ever since the truth was revealed. 5 years prior, a car accident and a DNA test revealed the truth of the switch at birth. Nina, the genuine Carter heiress, grew up in a trailer in Missouri, worn down by a family that felt she was out of place. Lacey, on the other hand, had been raised in the opulence of the Carter mansion, surrounded by affluence and admiration. Upon Nina's return to New York, the Carters did not welcome her with open arms. They lamented Lacey's diminished standing, regarding Nina as an unwelcome intruder. Lacey, with her innocent demeanor and sharp edge, expertly portrayed herself as the victim, leveraging her media ties to depict Nina as nothing more than a scheming opportunist. With each stride Nina made, Lacey lingered, ready to sabotage her progress. This audition for empire was Nina's opportunity, a grand war epic helmed by Quentin Hale. A tale of greatness. She had kept to herself just how significant this role was for her. This was the thought that lingered in her mind, murmuring phrases softly as she warmed up ramen in the quiet hours of the night. It was a script that comes around only once in a lifetime. A figure steeped in anguish, treachery, and hidden resilience. She recognized a reflection of herself in Marla. The banishment, the one who bears the blame, the singular narrative that time seeks to obliterate. Nina had no desire for the spotlight, not truly. What she longed for was for someone, anywhere, to acknowledge her presence with a simple, "I see you. Your words resonate with me." This was her moment to shine. For months, she immersed herself in the script, becoming one with the character of General Marla, a war hero who faced betrayal and exile. The coveted role of Empress Kalia was the prize everyone sought. Yet Nina understood that Marla was destined for her. She had invested her soul in the preparation, committing each line and every pause to memory. And now, confined in this icy chamber, she sensed that dream fading into the distance. Time slipped away. Her breath misted in the crisp air, yet she remained still, refusing to succumb to despair. She recalled Missouri, the nights spent evading her foster father's fury, murmuring to herself that freedom was within reach. She had endured far greater challenges than this. A subtle noise interrupted her contemplation, the sound of footsteps, weighty and intentional. The lock turned with a soft click, and the door groaned as it swung open. A towering silhouette loomed against the urban glow, his features obscured in darkness. "Are you all right?" His voice was calm and unwavering, devoid of any trace of sympathy. Nina stood gracefully, sweeping away the dust from her dress. "Last night was not my finest." He moved nearer, and she could see him distinctly. His defined jawline, deep dark hair, and eyes that appeared to penetrate her barriers. Lucas King, the visionary leader of the King Group, is a 28-year-old billionaire who has crafted a remarkable tech empire from the ground up. He was reticent in the public eye, notoriously reserved, and steered clear of the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Yet here he was, gazing at her with a depth that transcended mere flirtation. It was acknowledgement, as if he perceived the power she concealed. He gestured to his phone, saying he was checking the rooftop for a signal. "I caught wind of something up here. This caught me off guard." He cast a quick look at the storage room, his jaw clenching in response. "Who is responsible for this?" "It doesn't matter," Nina said, her voice steady. "I must make my way to an audition. It may be coming to an end, yet I feel compelled to make an attempt." Lucas observed her intently, then gave a slight nod. "Where is it?" "Sunset Studios, located in the heart of downtown." He acted without a moment's pause. "Let us proceed." They seized his vehicle, a polished black sedan that sliced through Manhattan's congestion with precision. Lucas navigated the road quietly, stealing glances at her from time to time. "You're different from what I imagined," he said at last. Nina's lips curled into a subtle smile. "What does that mean?" "You're not expressing distress or anguish after being confined all night. Many individuals likely would be. I'm not like everyone else," she stated plainly. He offered a slight nod, as if he had tucked that information neatly into his mind. "What is the audition about?"
Dominion.
"This is a film set against the backdrop of war. I am currently engaged in reading material for General Marla." "Not the lead?" he inquired, taken aback. "Everyone desires the spotlight," she remarked. "Marla is the one who holds significance for me." He refrained from pushing, and she was grateful for that. Lucas King had no intention of rescuing her out of mere sympathy. He found himself captivated, perhaps even admiring the poise with which she presented herself. She was no damsel in distress, and he was far from a gallant knight. In that fleeting instant, two souls intertwined, their paths converging at the perfect time. As dawn broke, they arrived at Sunset Studios, where the lot hummed with the activity of crew members dismantling equipment. Lucas slid the car into a red zone, dismissing the tow signs with a casual glance. "Wait here," he instructed. stepping outside and presenting his ID to a bewildered security guard. In an instant, the gate creaked open. He faced no inquiries. His name held significance, and wealth dispelled uncertainty. As Nina strolled by the checkpoint, she observed how more gazes were drawn to Lucas than to herself. It once felt like a sharp ache, lingering in the background of another's strength. However, this time is different. Lucas did not come to her rescue. He had opened a door, indeed, but she had stepped through it, and that difference held greater significance than anyone could comprehend. Nina felt a heavy weight in her chest. The audition had concluded. She emerged, her simple dress and untamed hair capturing the attention of the refined assistants. Soft murmurs trailed behind her. Who is she? Another aspiring individual? Observe her attire. Lucas lingered by the car, observing her as she approached the studio doors. You've got this, he urged, his voice imbued with a calm assurance. With a subtle nod, she stepped through the door. The lobby was almost deserted, with only a small group gathered close to the audition room. Quentin Hale, the director, Sarah Lynn, the script creator, and several producers. As Nina drew near, they shifted their gazes, expressions blending irritation with intrigue. She appeared out of sorts, her dress creased, her complexion untouched by cosmetics. The murmurs intensified. She has yet to arrive. What is her purpose for being here? Nina apologized, her head bowed slightly, her voice steady and clear. I realize I'm behind schedule. I'm Nina Carter, representing Empire. I would appreciate the opportunity to read for General Marla, if that is permissible. Quentin, a slender figure with keen eyes, wore a frown. The auditions wrapped up just an hour ago. We've already encountered everyone. I understand, Nina said, her posture straight and her gaze unwavering. But I've prepared for this role. I will be concise and to the point. Sarah Lynn tilted her head, curiosity piqued. Marla, is it? Not Kalia, the sovereign? No, Nina replied, Marla is the one I came for. Silence enveloped the room. A producer whispered, she's the Carter girl from the tabloids, the one who's a fraud. Quentin cast a glance his way, followed by a deep sigh. All right, just one read. Do not anticipate wonders. They guided her into the audition room, a bare environment featuring a camera and an isolated chair. The crew stood with their arms crossed, anticipating a swift collapse. Upon Nina's arrival in the audition room, a lighting technician let out a loud snort. What is this? Does the thrift store princess believe she's a star? The group chuckled, one imitating her stride in her simple attire. Surely she's come to plead for leftovers. Another murmured, just within earshot. Nina's cheeks turned a rosy hue, yet she raised her chin, her gaze unwavering as she confronted the camera. Their taunts mirrored the fabrications of the tabloids. Deception. No one. Unreal. Every word a piercing thread in her dignity. Yet she stood taller, her silence challenging them to recognize her reality. Nina stood beneath the lights, her unadorned dress taking on an air of elegance in its understated beauty. She shut her eyes briefly, allowing Marla's anguish and resistance to wash over her. The setting unfolded in the courtroom, where Marla stood trial, facing accusations of treason. Nina started, her voice soft yet powerful. You label me a traitor, yet I stood my ground for this land while you cowered behind your defenses. You may seize my title and my honor, but my truth will remain untouchable. Her eyes shone, not with fury, but with unwavering determination. She shifted gracefully, her hands quivering slightly to reveal Marla's fragility, her chin raised to convey her resilience. The atmosphere was still. Quentin leaned forward, his pen suspended in anticipation. Sarah's lips parted ever so slightly, her notebook slipping from her mind. Nina completed the scene, her last line a soft yet powerful promise. I will rise once more, and you will recall my name. Silence enveloped the room for a full 5 seconds. As Nina completed Marla's last line, the space seemed to shrink, the atmosphere electric with her essence. She transcended mere performance. She embodied Marla, her anguish and rebellion so palpable that it caused a cup to slip from his grasp. The splash went unnoticed. In those moments, Nina was not merely demonstrating her place. She was taking back all that they attempted to seize. Her voice, taken away by whispers. Her reputation, tarnished by sensational headlines. Her destiny, sealed away behind barriers she was never intended to breach. As the final syllable escaped her mouth, it transcended mere dialogue. It was a rebirth. The girl they attempted to erase stood boldly in sight, commanding the attention of a room brimming with skeptics. After a long time, Nina finally felt a sense of presence. She felt acknowledged, and each of them would carry the memory of what it meant to misjudge her. Quentin's eyes sparkled with a captivating light. Sarah wrote with intense passion, and even the mocking words seemed to pause, their expressions caught in astonishment. Nina averted her eyes, ever so humble, yet her performance hung in the air like an enchantment, silencing every skeptic in a single, stunning instant. Quentin's hoarse whisper shattered the silence. That lacks skill. What an astonishing occurrence! With a decisive clap, Sarah shattered the enchantment that lingered in the air. Wow, that was Marla, she remarked, glancing at Quentin. That is her. Quentin rubbed his jaw, taken aback. Nina, where did you acquire that skill? I didn't, Nina said softly. I simply sensed her presence. The crew shared knowing looks. Their doubts vanished. A producer murmured, She's superior to anyone we encountered for Kalia. Quentin approached her with purposeful strides. I came across a student film you created years back, a little project from Missouri. I ought to have checked in, but your publicity, the speculation? I did not. I take full responsibility for that error. Nina locked eyes with him, her demeanor serene. I have arrived. He nodded, a gradual smile unfolding. You are Marla. We will reach out to you with the specifics. Thank you, Nina said, bowing her head once more, her voice unwavering, though her heart raced with intensity. She had accomplished it, defying all odds and overcoming every obstacle. She had seized the role for which she had fought so fiercely. As she exited the studio, the morning sun kissed her face, and she felt a buoyancy she hadn't experienced in years. Lucas had left, his car absent from the lot, yet she felt no concern. He had offered her an opportunity, not an obligation. She had achieved this through her own efforts. News traveled quickly. By noon, Lacey Dalton found herself in a downward spiral. Lacey's outburst was explosive. She shattered a crystal decanter on the floor of her penthouse suite, red wine splattering across the white marble like blood. She was meant to be confined, yet she screamed, her voice raw and strained. She was meant to vanish. Her assistant stood by the door, frozen in place, a palpable fear keeping them still. Lacey moved in tight circles, her designer heels echoing sharply against the floor. She had been getting ready for this part for months, or at the very least, getting set to step in and enchant everyone around her. And now, the headlines were lauding Nina for captivating the audience, claiming her moment in the limelight. Lacey's throat seethed with fury. Does she desire conflict? She will definitely achieve it. She had arrived at the studio earlier, exuding charm and confidence, convinced she would secure Empress Kalia. Her team had strategically shared stories with the media, building her image as the Carter heiress poised for greatness. Upon learning that Nina had auditioned and secured the role of Marla, she froze, her flawless smile faltering. Later that day, as Nina exited the studio, Lacey was already engaged in a conversation with a tabloid editor, her voice dripping with insincere sorrow. She felt a deep sense of betrayal as she paced her penthouse, grappling with the weight of the lies that had been told. Nina is circulating tales that I have taken her existence. I was raised as a Carter. She is simply envious. The editor devoured it, vowing a sensational front-page feature, heiress or fraudster. The truth behind Nina Carter's deception revealed. Lacey ended the call, a smile spreading across her face as she gazed at her reflection. She would entomb Nina before she had a chance to radiate, and the world would applaud her for it. Nina, unaware of her surroundings, made her way home alone, her triumph still delicate. As she rounded the last bend toward her apartment building, Nina lifted her gaze to the overcast skyline. The world remained the same. The traffic continued to rumble. The lights persisted in their red and green dance. Yet an undeniable change had taken root within her. She had transformed from the girl they once confined to a storage closet. She was the woman who turned and left once more. She reflected on Lucas, on his steadfast presence. She was uncertain about what his place in her life might evolve into, if it would mean anything at all. Yet, in that instant, she sensed a diminished solitude. She strode with newfound confidence, her shoes resonating with assurance against the pavement. For the first time, her steps resonated with a sense of fearless ownership. She called Linda, her voice dripping with malice. "You mentioned that she wouldn't arrive." "You promised me," Linda stammered. "I secured her inside. I promise, there has to be someone who—" "I couldn't care less," Lacey retorted sharply. "She holds no significance. A young girl from the countryside indulging in imaginative play with costumes. Please make the necessary corrections, Linda. Make her vanish." Linda attempted to soothe her. "It's merely a supporting role, Lacey. Kalia shines bright. You will surpass her brilliance." Yet Lacey remained oblivious. Nina's victory, though modest, seemed like an act of larceny. She had devoted years to erasing Nina, making certain that every article labeled her as a fraud, an insignificant figure. And now Nina had seamlessly emerged, her gift unmistakable. Lacey picked up her phone and began to dial her publicist. "I need some scandalous information about her, something that will really tarnish her image." In a small apartment across town, Nina immersed herself once more in the pages of the Empire script. Unaware of Lacey's intentions, she sensed the impending gravity of the situation. The Carters would always ensure her ascent was anything but effortless. Lacey would engage in the most ruthless tactics yet, but for the first time Nina felt no fear. She had confronted the shadows, the chill, the deceit, and yet she remained upright. Lucas King found himself in his office once again, gazing out at the skyline. Later that evening, he found himself captivated by a grainy clip of Nina from 5 years prior, showcasing a local theater production. Dim lighting, shaky camera work, yet her performance? Electrifying. Her delivery of each line carried an unfiltered intensity. It was as if she wasn't merely acting. She was navigating through it all. The audience may have been small, yet the stillness that enveloped the room after her final monologue was a profound silence, steeped in respect. Lucas revisited that moment 3 times. He reclined in his chair, stroking his jaw thoughtfully, then whispered to himself, "They buried a diamond and called it dust." For the first time in what felt like ages, he experienced an emotion that transcended mere tactics or gain. It was admiration. He couldn't shake the thought of Nina Carter, her quiet strength lingering in his mind, the way she stood firm in that storage room without flinching. He was not the type to pursue emotions, yet he caught himself looking up her name on the internet. The headlines were merciless. Carter's deception uncovered. Gold digger or wayward heiress. Yet he had witnessed her, unfiltered and genuine, and he understood that the truth surpassed the fabrications. He shut his laptop, a resolution taking root. Lucas reclined in his chair, his gaze drifting into the distance. He had devoted years to spaces where quiet loomed as a menace, a strategy of bargaining, a signal of surrender. Yet Nina's silence held a unique quality. It wasn't a lack of strength. It was mastery. It was power cloaked in silence, and that rendered her perilous in a realm that flourished on clamor. He contemplated his upcoming board meeting, envisioning the myriad of faces that grinned excessively, devoid of any genuine meaning. Then he envisioned her, poised beneath those unforgiving audition lights, unwavering. The world would attempt to consume her, only to cast her aside. However, Lucas remained skeptical about its potential. There was an undeniable sense that Nina Carter was destined for more than mere survival. She would transform the very essence of survival. He would watch her closely, not out of a desire to protect, but to observe her next move. Nina Carter wasn't merely getting by. She was redefining the rules, and this, It was merely the start. The events that followed would transform everything. Reputations in ruins, loyalties put to the ultimate test, and the world compelled to recognize a woman they had previously dismissed in a strikingly new perspective. If this narrative ignited a spark within you, if you sensed the unfairness, if you found yourself holding your breath as she stood tall, if you quietly cheered when they finally recognized her true worth, then don't simply turn away. Hit that like button if you support the idea of second chances. Share your thoughts to make an impact. Join us to become part of a flourishing community that appreciates the power of subtle resilience. And above all, spread this tale. One can never be certain of who might be listening, seeking a reminder that dignity manifests in countless forms. Part 2 is on its way, and believe me, you'll be eager to see what unfolds next.